Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into a question that I bet you've thought about before. Could humans have really lived for, like, hundreds of years in the past? Our source material is this Korean YouTube video,
Okay.
and it tackles this question from a creationist perspective, and it proposes some really interesting theories. We're going to be looking at things like a water canopy over the Earth, a supercharged magnetic field, and even a link to the amount of coal we have on Earth. To help us break down the science and see if there's any truth to these claims,
Yeah,
we've got our expert here with us, ready to dive in.
absolutely. I'm particularly interested in how this video tries to bridge biblical accounts with scientific concepts.
Right. It all starts with those incredible lifespans that are mentioned in the Bible.
Oh,
Adam living to 930, Methuselah a whopping 969 years.
right.
It really makes you kind of question the modern scientific estimate of 120 years
Yeah.
as the maximum human lifespan.
It certainly makes you wonder, while these biblical lifespans are far beyond what we understand scientifically, the video tries to explain this through, environmental factors that may have been present at the time.
Okay, let's unpack this water canopy theory. It's a big one. The video kind of depicts this layer of water, possibly ice, above the Earth's atmosphere,
Yeah.
acting like a giant shield, filtering out all the harmful radiation and creating this stable, almost utopian environment.
It's a captivating idea, isn't it? Think about the potential implications like a globally consistent climate, protection from radiation, and maybe even a richer oxygen environment. These factors could, theoretically contribute to longer lifespans.
The video even references observations from NASA of high-altitude ice clouds formed by rocket exhaust as a possible parallel to this water canopy.
While that observation is intriguing, it's important to, avoid jumping to conclusions. It doesn't necessarily confirm the existence of a massive ancient water canopy. Atmospheric science is extremely complex, and recreating past conditions with certainty is a massive challenge.
Good point. But the video goes on to suggest that there was no rain during this time, citing the biblical passage.
Okay.
But there went up a mist from the earth and watered the whole face of the ground.
That's where the concept of the hydrological cycle comes in, which, as you know, describes the continuous movement of water on, above, and below the surface of the Earth. A water canopy could, significantly alter this cycle, changing how water is distributed and potentially relying on, mist or dew to sustain plant life rather than rainfall.
Fascinating. Now, the video argues that things took a dramatic turn. After the biblical flood, they propose that the canopy collapsed,
Okay.
causing this huge deluge and radically altering the Earth's environment, making it less hospitable and ultimately shortening human lifespans. What are your thoughts on that?
It's an interesting interpretation. The video then connects this to the sheer volume of coal on Earth today, proposing it as evidence of, once vast and lush plant life, potentially fueled by the effects of the canopy. They essentially paint a picture of a pre-flood world that was radically different from what we know today.
So they're suggesting this canopy acted like a huge biological incubator, sheltering early humans and maybe even contributing to their extended lifespans. But wouldn't a dense water canopy block sunlight, hindering plant growth?
That's a great question, and one that the video doesn't fully address. While the idea of a canopy is intriguing, we need more concrete evidence to confirm its existence and its effects. And even if it did exist, there are still many unanswered questions about how it would function and influence life on Earth.
Okay, so we've talked about the water canopy, but the video also dives into another fascinating factor, the Earth's magnetic field. They claim it was much stronger in the past.
Right, the video suggests that the Earth's magnetic field was, significantly stronger in the past, acting as a powerful shield against harmful radiation from the sun. They even suggest that the field strength during the time period described in the Bible could have been 16 times stronger than what we experience today.
Wow, 16 times stronger. That's a bold claim. But wouldn't such a strong magnetic field disrupt things like compasses and animal migration? And is there any scientific evidence to support this claim?
Those are some great questions to consider. While it's true that the Earth's magnetic field has weakened over time, a 16-fold increase is unlikely, based on our current understanding and the paleomagnetic data we've gathered.
So the video's claim might be a bit of a stretch.
It seems that way. Plus, even a stronger magnetic field wouldn't necessarily block all harmful radiation. Some types of radiation, like cosmic rays, are incredibly energetic and can penetrate even the strongest magnetic fields.
That's really interesting. So even with a supercharged magnetic field, Early humans would still have faced some level of radiation exposure.
Precisely. And it's important to remember that radiation exposure is just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to longevity. There are many other factors that play a role, including genetics, diet, and lifestyle.
That makes sense. So, while a stronger magnetic field might have provided some protection, it's unlikely to be the sole explanation for the long lifespans described in the Bible.
Exactly. And we need to be cautious about drawing direct correlations between magnetic field strength and lifespan without considering all the other contributing factors.
Okay, so we've explored the water canopy and the supercharged magnetic field. What other intriguing ideas does this video present in its attempt to explain these incredible lifespans?
Well, the video dives into the concept of hyperbaric oxygen chambers and their potential connection to longevity. They argue that the conditions under a water canopy might have created a hyperbaric environment, which could have had positive effects on human health and lifespan.
Hyperbaric oxygen chambers, that's something I've heard used for like wound healing and certain medical conditions. How would that tie into the water canopy theory?
They suggest that the pressure from the water canopy, combined with potentially higher oxygen levels, could have created an environment similar to a hyperbaric chamber, leading to increased oxygen absorption in the body. This, they argue, could have contributed to cellular health and potentially slowed down the aging process.
That's a fascinating connection. But wouldn't such a high-pressure environment also pose challenges for human physiology?
Absolutely. That's one of the key points to consider. While hyperbaric oxygen therapy can have benefits in controlled settings, prolonged exposure to high pressure can also have detrimental effects on the human body.
So while the idea of a hyperbaric environment contributing to longevity is intriguing, there are also potential downsides to consider. It seems like there's a delicate balance at play.
Exactly. And it highlights the complexity of studying the past. And trying to piece together the factors that may have influenced human lifespan, we need to consider both the potential benefits and the potential risks of any given environmental condition.
This is getting really interesting. It seems like the video is painting a picture of a pre-flood world that was almost like a natural hyperbaric chamber, potentially boosting human health and longevity. But as you mentioned, we need to be careful about drawing definitive conclusions. What other evidence does the video present to support this idea?
Well, they delve into the fossil record, pointing to the existence of
Oh,
giant insects and reptiles in the past. They suggest that these creatures, large size, could be attributed to the higher oxygen levels and pressure that might have existed under the water canopy.
giant insects. That sounds like something straight out of a science fiction movie. But wouldn't those larger insects also require more oxygen to survive?
That's a great point, and it raises some interesting questions about the plausibility of this theory. While it's true that some insects were significantly larger in the past, there are other factors that likely contributed to their size, such as different atmospheric compositions and evolutionary pressures.
So the video's claim might not be as straightforward as it seems.
Exactly. It's important to consider all the variables and not oversimplify complex scientific concepts. While the idea of a hyperbaric environment influencing insect size is intriguing, it's likely just one piece of a much larger puzzle.
This deep dive is really challenging my assumptions. It seems like every claim the video makes raises even more questions.
That's the beauty of scientific inquiry. It's about constantly questioning, exploring, and refining our understanding of the world around us.
Okay, so we've explored the water canopy, the supercharged magnetic field, and now the possibility of a hyperbaric environment. But even with all these factors combined, is it really plausible that humans could live for hundreds of years? What does the current scientific consensus say about the maximum human lifespan?
That's a great question, and one that scientists are still actively researching. While there are documented cases of individuals living well over 100 years, the current scientific consensus suggests that there's a biological limit to human lifespan, and it's likely somewhere around 120 years.
So those biblical lifespans are still way outside the realm of what we currently understand scientifically.
That's correct. Well, there's always the possibility of, new discoveries that could challenge our understanding. The evidence we have now points to a maximum human lifespan. That's far shorter than the ages described in the Bible.
Okay, so we need to approach those biblical accounts with a healthy dose of skepticism. But let's delve a little deeper into the scientific factors that influence lifespan. We've touched on environmental factors. But what about genetics?
Genetics play a crucial role in determining lifespan. There are certain genes that have been linked to longevity, and researchers are actively studying how these genes interact with environmental factors to influence the aging process.
So it's not just about the environment, it's also about the interplay between our genes and our surroundings.
Exactly. It's a complex dance between nature and nurture, and scientists are still unraveling the intricacies of this relationship.
That makes sense. So even if the environment was ideal for longevity, our genes would still play a significant role in determining how long we live.
Absolutely. And we can't discount the role of lifestyle factors, such as diet, exercise, and stress management, which also have a significant impact on lifespan.
It seems like longevity is a multifaceted issue with many contributing factors. It's not just about a single environmental element or a magic gene.
Precisely. It's a complex interplay of, genetics, environment, and lifestyle choices. And understanding how these factors work together is key to unraveling the secrets of aging.
Okay, so we've established that those biblical lifespans
Yeah.
are likely not a realistic representation of human potential, but the video continues to present evidence for a radically different pre-flood world. They turn their attention to the abundance of coal on Earth.
Right. The video suggests that the sheer volume of coal we find today points to, like, an incredibly lush and vibrant plant life in the past. They argue that this abundance is difficult to explain with current scientific models and propose that the unique conditions
Yeah.
created by the water canopy, like filtered radiation and a stable climate, could have fueled this explosion of plant life.
So they're tying the water canopy theory into the fossil record. That's a bold connection. But don't geologists generally attribute the formation of massive coal deposits to specific periods like the Carboniferous, long before humans even existed?
That's correct. The Carboniferous period, which occurred roughly 300 to 360 million years ago, was characterized by vast swamp forests that eventually formed the coal deposits we see today. This predates the time frame typically associated with the biblical flood narrative.
So while the video's claim about the abundance of coal being evidence of a unique pre-flood environment is interesting, that doesn't necessarily align with the established scientific understanding
Yeah,
of coal formation.
exactly. It's important to consider the broader context and the existing scientific evidence when evaluating these claims. While the video raises some intriguing possibilities, we need to be cautious about accepting them without further investigation.
This deep dive is really making me think critically about the information presented in the video. It seems like they're cherry-picking certain pieces of evidence to fit their narrative, while overlooking other established scientific explanations.
That's a valid observation. It's important to be aware of potential biases
Yeah.
and to critically evaluate the sources of information we encounter.
So while the video presents some captivating ideas, we need to approach them with a discerning eye and seek out additional evidence to support or refute their claims.
Absolutely. That's the essence of scientific thinking, being curious, questioning assumptions, and seeking out evidence-based answers.
Okay, so we've explored several key claims from the video. The water canopy, the supercharged magnetic field,
Yeah.
the hyperbaric environment,
Yeah.
and the link between coal and a lush pre-flood world. But what about those biblical lifespans themselves? Are they purely symbolic, or could there be a kernel of truth hidden within those ancient texts?
That's a question that has fascinated scholars and scientists for centuries. And while we may never know for sure, there are a few different perspectives to consider.
Let's hear them. I'm eager to explore the different interpretations of those incredible lifespans.
One perspective is that those ages are purely symbolic, meant to convey a sense of timelessness, or the importance of those early figures in the biblical narrative.
So they're not meant to be taken literally.
From this perspective, no. The focus is on the spiritual and metaphorical meaning, rather than the literal age.
That makes sense. What other interpretations are there?
Another perspective is that the ancient methods of measuring time were different from our modern calendar system and what we interpret as years. Might have actually been like shorter periods, like lunar cycles.
Interesting. So those 900-year lifespans might have been significantly shorter if we considered a different time scale.
Exactly. It's a possibility worth exploring. And then there's the perspective that those lifespans, while exaggerated, might reflect a time when environmental conditions were more favorable for longevity.
Ah, so tying back to the video's claims.
Mhm.
about the water canopy and other environmental factors.
Precisely. Perhaps those early humans did experience longer lifespans compared to later generations, even if they didn't reach those biblical extremes.
That's fascinating. So while the literal interpretation of those ages might be questionable, there could be a historical basis for the idea that humans once lived longer lives.
It's a possibility that warrants further investigation, and it's a reminder that the quest for understanding the past is an ongoing journey filled with intriguing mysteries and potential discoveries.
Well, this deep dive has certainly taken us down some unexpected paths. We've explored the water canopy, the magnetic field, the hyperbaric environment, the fossil record,
Hmm.
and even delved into the different interpretations of those biblical lifespans. It's clear that there's a lot more to this topic than meets the eye.
Absolutely, and it highlights the importance of critical thinking,
Yeah.
examining evidence from multiple perspectives, and being open to revising our understanding as new information emerges.
It's been a wild ride so far. But before we move on, I'd love to hear your thoughts on something. The video focuses primarily on external factors that might have contributed to longevity in the past, but what about internal factors, specifically the biological processes of aging?
That's a crucial aspect to consider. While environmental factors can play a role in influencing lifespan, the